Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick with Smart Drive Test talking to you tonight for Smart Sunday number 8. It's been 8 sessions already on the Smart Sunday. So, yes, happy Thanksgiving to Canadians. It is Turkey Day in Canada, and it's not Turkey Day in the United States for another month or so, not until the end of November. So, Turkey Day comes just before Black Friday in the United States of America. The Friday after Thanksgiving in the U.S. is the largest shopping day during the whole year. So, Flacco. Yes, turkey, baby. Absolutely, turkey. So, that's why we're having the live stream today. I'll try and get in the center of the screen here. Here we go. On Monday rather than Sunday, because it was a long weekend here in Canada, and then it'll be a long weekend in the United States. So, questions. So first question is, where are people from, and what kind of car are you learning to drive on, or what kind of vehicle are you learning to drive on? I guess the second question is, can everybody hear me all right? Is the audio working? I was sort of messing around a little bit with the audio, trying to get it to work, because I noticed last week, as Corey said, there was a bit of a buzz from it. So, McKay, road test tomorrow, and I'm nervous. I haven't practiced going 20 miles an hour and coming to a complete stop. What maneuver is that for, McKay, that you're working on in terms of coming to a stop at 20 miles an hour? Alex is from Houston. Alex, what kind of vehicle are you driving down there in Houston preparing for your road test? El Flaco says, great audio. Awesome. I'm glad that maybe I finally managed to get the hum out of the audio here. Seth is from Toronto. Hi, Seth. And McKay from Florida, and I'm learning to drive on a 2009 Dodge Journey. The Journey, McKay, that's an SUV, isn't it? That's the new Dodge SUV that they've got out. It's sort of a mid-size. Terry, CDL air brakes from New York. So you're doing your air brakes in New York, are you, Terry? Your CDL there. Chris Christ is from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Great state of Oklahoma in the Midwest. Let me just clarify that before I say that Oklahoma is in the Midwest. Is Oklahoma considered Midwest, or is it considered Central, South Central? From Chicago, Samson is from Chicago. CDL Class A, that's great. Thank you so much for that. Anna from Calgary, test in a few weeks, hope it doesn't snow. Well, Anna, I'm doing a video right now about driving in the fall in the mountains, and I just drove to Vancouver Island from Vernon, where I live, which is a 5-hour run. It's a 5-hour driving time, and it goes through the mountains, and there was snow, and unfortunately there were a few people who had not yet shifted into winter, even though we have a fairly significant commercial, advertising marketing campaign right now for shifting into winter, because as of the 1st of October in British Columbia and other provinces and other northern states, I suspect, you're required to have snow tires on your vehicle as of the 1st of October to drive on certain highway roads, or on certain highways and mountain passes here in British Columbia. And yes, there was ice on the top of the mountain, because I left early Saturday morning about 6 a.m. So by the time I got up, it was 8 o'clock. It was there was ice up there, and there were a couple of rollovers. So do be careful if you're driving at higher elevations or in the northern states and whatnot. And Sam is here, and we had a discussion last week about Sam's last name, Jericho Arroyo, and I am not saying that right, am I, Sam? So, Jericho Arroyo, I think I'm getting that right now, is from Rookie Auto Driving School in the Bronx. And Sam is really good. They have a Instagram. Is it Instagram, Sam? I think it's Instagram that's attached to Facebook. Really lots of questions and information on there. So, have a look at that. Yeah, Corey's laughing. Yeah, I didn't quite get it. My apologies. Alex is taking his road test tomorrow. Any concerns for your road test tomorrow, Alex? Has a road test on Thursday. Tips, yes, Wheeling, Illinois. Excellent. Now, I know that Wheeling, Illinois is definitely the Midwest. I know that for sure. I wasn't sure about Oklahoma, but I know that Wheeling is definitely the Midwest. So Chonky, I'm from the U.S., new to the U.S., and right-hand driving. Yes, excellent. I had some experience with that, Chonky, about driving on the other side of the road because I lived in Australia, and there is a video here. So you're currently in Atlanta, Georgia. So definitely have that video looking at the other side of driving on the other side of the road, and that'll give some tips on that. So, okay, so questions, tips on passing your road test. So all road tests have 4 basic components: speed management, space management, observation, communication. So speed management, flow of the traffic, posted speed limit, capability of the vehicle. If you're driving a larger vehicle and you're going uphill, it's not going to do the posted speed limit, so whatever the vehicle will do. Whichever one of those is less. So posted speed limit, flow of traffic, capability of the vehicle. Those are the speeds that you have to drive. Space management, don't get near any fixed objects and don't get near other road users, okay? Pedestrians, cyclists, scooters, motorcyclists, those types of things, okay? Observation and communication, you have to observe, so you have to have a scanning pattern in place that includes your mirrors and shoulder checking. So every turn or lane change you have to shoulder check 2 times. And then communicate, you have to communicate with other road users, okay? Communications, signals, lights, appropriate hand gestures. Don't tell other drivers that they're number 1 on a road test. You will not be successful. Okay? And the position of your vehicle on the roadway. Tell and communicate to other road users what you're doing. Okay? So that's the basic fundamentals of any road test anywhere in the world where you are. The other thing about road tests here in Canada, they tend to be a bit longer. They tend to be 20 to 40 minutes in Canada. Sam and other driving instructors, we've had this discussion previously that on the eastern seaboard of the United States, they tend to be short, like 8 to 12 minutes. So know that, okay? So you can sort of be anywhere between that. All right. Matthew is from Pennsylvania. I'm going to take my road test on the 28th, and you're taking it in a Toyota Corolla. That's a good vehicle for a road test. Lots of driving schools use those. McKay. Arroyo. There we go. See, you helped me out. Now I can say it. Arroyo. There we go. Maneuver and coming to a fast stop and not to screech the tires or brakes while stopping when the instructor says stop. Okay. So McKay, I think what we call that up here, we call that an emergency stop. If the examiner says to you, like, bring the vehicle to a stop. So what you want to do is you want to brake. It's called threshold braking. When you apply the brakes really hard, but you don't lock up the tires, because if you start to feel it screech, you start to feel it move a little bit, and you probably want to practice this a little bit before you actually do your road test. Practice this and just release the brakes if they're starting to lock up. And then just before the vehicle comes to a complete stop, and have a look at the video here on how to bring a vehicle to a complete stop on the channel, and that will show you how to have control, because you want to release the brakes, let the body settle back over the chassis, and then reapply the brakes and bring the vehicle to a complete stop. Okay, Ashmer, are you talking about how to become a driving instructor or become a driving examiner, one that works at the DMV or one of the other licensing authorities that tests people to get licenses? Which one of those? Excellent. Sam said I finally got it. Okay, Jocelyn, you're having some trouble with nerves and anxiety. That is not uncommon. Okay, it's really challenging to take your road test, so know that. And if you haven't already, have a look, Jocelyn, at the video on fear and anxiety and how to try and reduce that. Okay, a driving examiner at the DMV. Usually that's just a matter of getting on board with the DMV. Now, I don't know about in the United States so much, but I do know up here that a lot of, like, the Ministry of Transportation in Ontario, the ICBC, the people who become driving examiners up here, they have to sort of get on board. The driving licensing authority has training for that, and then they sort of work up into that position. And I think that'll probably be similar to the DMV in the United States. Sorry, I just had a tip there. Okay. So that's probably how you get on board as being a driving examiner at the DMV. I mean, Sam might also have some tips about how to become a driving examiner with the DMV in the United States. Gavin, don't get nervous. Well, unfortunately, we all get nervous, so you just got to remember to breathe. Okay, Faith wanted some tips on parallel parking. Okay, so one of the first things you need to do, Faith, is you need to determine if the space that you're going to parallel park into is a legal space. If it's legal, you're not parking next to a fire hydrant, those types of things. Have a look at that. So determine that the space is legal. Then make sure that the space that you're going to park in is at least a vehicle and a half. Okay? And know that most of the time, as it says in the video here on the channel, they're not going to make you park between two vehicles. Most driving centers, for the purposes of parallel parking, what they're going to make you do is they're either going to make you do it in a closed circuit area with pylons, or they're going to take you out and they're going to find some place to park where you just park off one vehicle. There's not going to be another vehicle behind you that you're going to have to look out for. So when you pull up, just 3 feet from the vehicle that's already parked there, do a 360-degree scan, put the vehicle into reverse immediately because you want your reverse lights to come on. You put your right signal on, rather, sorry. So your right signal on, telling people that you're going to parallel park. Your reverse lights are on, 360-degree scan, and then move back all the way to the right with the steering wheel. Back up until you're facing a 45-degree marker that you picked out before you started backing up. Back in until you're a half to a third down the hood. Straighten the wheels out. Or sorry, when you're facing your 45 marker, then straighten your wheels out, back up third to half down the hood, and then crank all the way to the left and come in, and you should be parked at that point. You might have to adjust a little bit by moving forward, but that's kind of in a nutshell what the video here about parallel parking will tell you in terms of that. And then after that, in terms of parallel parking, it's just a lot of practice, Faith, for parallel parking, okay? Okay, Richard, I moved from the UK with 9 years experience, Class 1 to Alberta. Got my Class 5 and advice for Class 1 here, thanks. Well, Richard, you're in the right place for getting a Class 1 because Alberta, my understanding is it's a little bit easier to get your Class 1, but it's just about going to a driving school, talking to driving schools, seeing what you have to do in terms of getting your Class 1. But most Class 1 driving courses entail 5 basic components for getting a Class 1 license. The first one is turning, so you have to be able to get a larger vehicle with a trailer around corners, most of the time in urban areas. You have to be able to do a pre-trip inspection that's going to take you approximately 45 minutes. It's a thorough pre-trip inspection of the vehicle and comprehensive. You have to be able to shift a non-synchronous transmission in Alberta because you're going to be driving in the mountains if you get a job in Alberta. Then the 2 minor components of a Class 1 tractor-trailer program are backing up. Depending on where you go for your license, it can vary a little bit. It can be straight line backing, or it can be parallel parking, or just backing around a corner. It depends where you're going for your license. And then the last one is hook and unhook, couple and uncouple the trailer. So obviously you uncouple it first and then hook back up to it. So those are the 5 basic components, and those can take you anywhere from sort of 30 to 50 hours, depending on how much money you have to spend, or whether you're going to get funding or those types of things. So that's a Class 1 program that you're going to be looking at in Alberta there. Angelica, do I need to take my 50-hour sheet when I take my test? Angelica, where are you taking your test that you have logged the hours that you have done for practicing? McKay, when you're backing out, are you talking about backing out of the parking space, McKay? Is that what you're talking about? Just answer that question for me. Ashmer, how do you get a motorcycle license or endorsement? Okay, getting a motorcycle license, Ashmer, is similar to any other class of license. Essentially, you got to go get a learner's permit. So you have to write a test, a knowledge test, and then they give you a learner's. Depending on where you are, the parameters for being able to drive a motorcycle on your own or working with a mentor are going to vary a little bit depending on their graduated licensing program, if in fact they have one. And then you have to take a road test, and you're probably, if you're in a graduated licensing program, because most motorcycles do have a graduated licensing program, you're going to have to be in that graduated licensing program for a period of time, and then you're going to have to take another test to get your full motorcycle license. So that's how you do it. Okay, McKay, yes, out of a parking space. Now, what I say, McKay, for the purposes of your road test, back into the space before you go in and check in and start your road test, because it's just too hard. Okay, now, yes, when you back out of the space or back into the space, you have to put if you're on the right side of the road, you have to put your left hand on the top of the steering wheel and then put your right hand behind the passenger seat and look out the back window for reversing any vehicle. Okay, so that's what you have to do in order to back up. And the other thing I recommend when you're backing into a parking space is to always back in beside another vehicle, because it's a lot easier to back in beside another vehicle because you have a reference point as opposed to trying to get between the lines there. Okay. Francois. Okay, Francois, no, not every time you check. You don't have to check the oil and gas, because there is a fuel gauge in the vehicle. If you're not familiar with the vehicle, then I would go under the hood and check the oil just to make sure that it's okay and whatnot. The fuel gauge will tell you if it's a new vehicle, again, you want to make sure that you have fuel in it, because it's embarrassing when you run out of fuel. So, yeah. But you generally should check the oil every couple of weeks if it's a vehicle that you're driving all the time. Okay, Corey, maybe it's self-explanatory, but I'm not entirely sure what the handbook means when they say, in order to save gas, combine many smaller trips into one. Yes. So what they're talking about, Corey, is instead of, I got to run out to the convenience store and get a jug of milk, and then I come home. And then you need a pack of smokes. So you go out to the convenience store and get another pack of smokes, and then you need some shoelaces. So then you go to the Walmart again. So instead of doing each one of those trips individually to pick up one of those items, what they're saying there is that you could just go to the local strip mall where the Walmart is and get your shoelaces, and then you could pop over to the liquor store and get a box of beer, and then you could get your what else did I say? Your jug of milk while you're at Walmart. So instead of doing it in 3 or 4 or 5 trips and then back home and back out and back home, just do it in one thing and then stop at each one of those places, pick up the stuff, and do a round trip and come back. So essentially what they're talking about there is just a little bit more planning in terms of what you need to do and those types of things. And I mean, the other thing about saving fuel too is it's about choices. I mean, where do you live in the city? Is there a possibility that you can walk? Can you take public transit? Can you send somebody else to do it, and those types of things? So that's essentially what they're talking about, is take a bunch of smaller trips and combine them into one trip, and that way you're going to save time and money and fuel and those types of things. Faith, how do you drive up hills? Any tips? What kind of hills are you talking about, Faith? Are you talking about highway hills and those types of things, or are you talking about off-road 4x4? Okay. McKay, yes, no. For backing up, you don't have to have both hands on the steering wheel, McKay, just one, because the other one has to be on the back of the other seat to steady yourself while you're looking out the back window. So reversing is the one time that you can actually palm the steering wheel and manipulate the steering wheel with one hand. You don't have to keep both hands on the steering wheel for the purposes of reversing. Now, I have a video on here, and I'm just going to say this again and just remind you. In the video, I was adamant about the fact that you can take your seatbelt off, and in most jurisdictions, according to the legislation, yes, in fact, you can take your seatbelt off for the purposes of reversing. However, on a road test, and I think Sam will agree with me on this, do not take your seatbelt off, because driving examiners are not very familiar with legislation, and if you do that, they'll just go, oh my God, what is that person doing? You're scaring me. And the other thing is that because you're on a road test, oftentimes what happens is that you're nervous and you forget to put it back on as soon as you put the vehicle in a forward gear. So don't take your seatbelt off. Keep your seatbelt on for the entire test. All right. Amira, is it easier to start learning to drive a van or other smaller cars? The smaller it is, yes, the easier it's going to be to learn how to drive, because the turning radius is better. It's easier to get into parking lots and those types of things. Okay. Ashmere, when driving a manual transmission vehicle, do you shift based on miles per hour or RPMs? Actually, Ashmere, it's easier if you watch the tachometer. In my 1998 Honda CR-V that has a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine in it, I usually shift around 2,500, between 2,000 and 3,000 RPMs when I'm shifting it. So I just know that all the time that's where I shift it. If you've got a small diesel engine, it's going to be 1,000 to 1,500 depending on the engine and those types of things. But it's easier to learn how to shift on RPMs. Yes, Sam just said what I was saying about seatbelts. Even though the legislation says that you can, for the purposes of a road test, do not take your seatbelt off, okay? I have retracted that. So, yes, keep your seatbelt on for the purposes of a road test, okay? What things should be taken into consideration when someone is trying to find an instructor or school for future road tests? Excellent question. Excellent question. Okay, go to the driving school. Does it look professional? Are they going to answer your questions? Are they accommodating? What kinds of vehicles do they have? Are they late model vehicles? Are they mid-size sedans? Are they something like a Honda Civic, a Toyota Corolla, a mid-size car that is going to work well to teach you how to drive? Those are the kinds of things. And if the other thing that I would ask at driving schools when you're going to look for a driving school and pay for driving lessons as well, ask if they teach senior citizens, because oftentimes instructors that teach senior citizens are really good with students that may have some anxiety around driving and some anxiety in terms of learning and those types of things, okay? Okay, so yes, those are some of the questions that you can ask driving schools. The other thing that what you want to do is, if you can find former students who went to that driving school, ask them as well. And then the other place to look is to go on Google and do a search, and you'll see comments from other students who left comments and gave a rating to the school. So those are some of the ways that you can check out schools. And I know that Sam's school has a really high rating on Google. Auto Rookie Driving School in the Bronx. So have a look there, okay? Okay, Sam says some of the driving examiners are part-timers or per diem and are not sure about the rules, and that is absolutely right. Some of them have been promoted into the position or do not do the position all of the time, so therefore they're not familiar with the highway traffic legislation. So even though you can do something doesn't mean that you need to do it. And again, and here's a great point. I say to students, if you're not taking driving lessons, be sure to take a mock road test with a driving instructor 7 to 10 days before the road test. Now, here's the other point. I was talking to my friend Peter last week, who has ABC Driving School here in Vernon, and he said 3 to 4 weeks before your road test, call the driving school and book either driving lessons or book a mock road test, because he's booked up 3 to 4 weeks prior to getting lessons. So unless you call 3 to 4 weeks before, you're not going to get a lesson with him because he's so busy. Okay, so just know that as well. Sam, how much lead time do students need to book lessons with your school? Okay, if you're taking a right turn from a right turn lane that has no traffic lights merging into another road, do you have to stop if there is a crossing for people that there are no people crossing? No, you don't have to. If there's nobody in the crosswalk, you don't have to stop. But make sure you scan well onto the sidewalk on both sides of that crossing to ensure that there aren't any pedestrians anywhere near the crosswalk, because you don't want to get caught out, right? Because that's considered a dangerous action if you proceed across the crosswalk and there are pedestrians there, because you do have to give the pedestrians the right of way. All right. Shamir, can you stay in first gear going 30 miles an hour? No, 30 is pretty high. Basically, first gear in any car, any sort of mid-sized car, is just to overcome, inertia, just to get the vehicle going. And if you watch my videos here on shifting a manual transmission, I shift from first to second almost immediately. Like the car's probably not even going 10 kilometers an hour or 8 miles an hour before I shift into second gear. Okay, so know that. Angelica, is there a certain number of time you have to look at side mirrors when you're doing backing around corners? Yes, you should be glancing in the side mirror periodically, but for the most part, Angelica, you should be looking out the back window. But you do just want to kind of glance over there and make sure that there isn't anything over there or the driving environment around you has changed, whatnot. So know that, okay? Manira, thank you for the compliment. Understand right-of-way. I have tremendous difficulty with the right-of-way at various kinds of intersections. Okay, Manira, there is a video here where I go through a bunch of intersections about different rights of ways. Okay, now just remember that. Okay, Manira, there is a video here. It might be down in the description there. Otherwise, Corey will have a look for it for you, and he'll tell you what it is. It's right-of-way at different intersections. Now, just remember the key piece of information about right-of-way is the right-of-way is never taken. The right-of-way is always given. So if you're in the least bit of doubt, give the right-of-way to other traffic, other road users, let them go, and then proceed, okay? It's what we tell you again and again on a road test. For the purposes of a road test, if you are the least bit sure or the traffic is just to a point where you cannot deal with it, simply stop, wait for the traffic to clear, and then go. You can do that on a road test. You might lose a couple of demerit points, but you're not going to fail. If you plow through a traffic situation and it's not quite clear, you could potentially fail. And there's another video here that I'll put up as well about stop. Okay, just stop. If you're unsure of the traffic situation, just stop and let it clear. All right. Okay, Corey has another question. Okay, and just before I continue here, if you've asked me a question, I didn't get to it, I didn't see it, because as you can see, the comments are kind of scrolling through here. Just ask me the question again, and I'll be sure to answer it for you, okay? As a company truck driver, would deciding this be all up to you? Yes, it would, Corey. All of that is up to you in terms of driving. But I can tell you on one hand how many times I ever pulled over for weather. I just kept going. So, yeah, it is up to the driver. If you're unsure as a truck driver or a bus driver or some other commercial driver and the weather is bad, just pull over. It isn't worth your life to keep going. And the other thing is that you could talk to dispatch. You could ring your dispatcher and say, listen, it's bad, I'm going to pull over. And they will be able to give you some counsel on that. So you're not out there by yourself. Okay, Angelica, I'm taking my test on Saturday in Chicago, but I'm not sure if I need my 50-hour sheet. Okay, Angelica, you do have your 50-hour sheet. If you have your 50-hour sheet, just bring it with you. That way you're not going to get caught out if they say, oh, you need your 50-hour sheet. That way you'll just have it with you and it'll be fine, okay? As well, I need to fix that on the website, but there is a checklist for test day, and make sure that you bring 2 pieces of ID. If you wear prescription glasses and those type of things, you need to do those, and make sure that you do a pre-trip on your vehicle if you're taking your own personal vehicle. If you're going with a driving school, ask them if they did a pre-trip on the vehicle before you show up for your road test, because you don't want, you know, like a brake light out or something like that, and then you can't take your test, okay? So those are just some things. You are most welcome, Faith. It's always good that I can help people out to pass their road test during the week, and we can answer questions and whatnot. So, all right, Ashimer, if a school bus is stopped at an intersection with stop sign on its side, loading children on the left, can the car make a right turn? If the lights are flashing on the school bus and the stop sign arm is extended, then no, you cannot make a right-hand turn until that vehicle proceeds. So know that with school buses, that if the lights are flashing, the stop sign arm is extended, then you can't until the lights stop flashing, okay? Otherwise, if the lights aren't flashing and the vehicle's pulled over boarding passengers from the sidewalk, then you can pass. Only if the lights are flashing can you not pass. Is it safe to turn left on a green after you yield? As long as you have a big enough gap, then yes, you can turn. Okay? Nab, when you're exiting a highway and the ramp exiting the highway says 40, but it's in yellow, so it's a cautionary sign, do you have to follow the speed of the sign even though yellow is just a caution? No, you don't. If you know the curve and you've been on it before, then you can do a speed that you're comfortable with. But if you haven't been on it before and it says 40 miles an hour, I would slow down to 40 miles an hour. So just know that, okay? All right, so we've got a little slow down here. Okay, Francois, when I drive on a highway road, I see the other car going up to 55 miles an hour. What is the exact limit I can go on the highway without risk to be pulled over by police? Francois, I would say that your tolerance at 55 miles an hour is probably another 5 miles an hour. So you could probably do 60 and the police will not pull you over, okay? I know here in Canada we're on the metric system, so it's kilometers per hour. You can do 10 kilometers an hour over and the police will leave you alone. That's fine. As long as you're not ripping past the traffic flow, if you're going much faster than the flow of traffic, then you're probably going to get pulled over. But the tolerance for miles per hour is probably 5 miles per hour. You're probably going to be fine. Okay? All right. And since we have a break here, what we're going to do is I'm going to go over to the Smart Drive Test website and we'll see who passed road tests this week. We've had quite a number of successful people. There's a couple of people that I haven't got up yet. I need to update that. I was away for the weekend, so here we go. That is not coming up for some reason. Okay. There we go. Okay. Here we go. Muhammad, Rachel, username that is not legible here. Clinton, Nani, Leslie, Velvet, all these smart drivers passed the road test this last week and were successful. Morgan, Silly Goose, great username. Jennifer, and as I said, there's a few more that I haven't put up here. But if you just go over to the Smart Drive Test website and you click on the logo, that'll take you to the home page, as you can see here. And it goes back to the home page here. And if you go down to the bottom on the right here, it says, you can't see that over there. There we go. And you go over to the right, it says here latest articles, and you just click on this first entry here. It will take you to the successful smart drivers who have passed the road test. Okay. Just get back here. Transition. Okay. Alright, let's see, who else? Hector, I'm getting my license at 17 and driver's ed isn't required. Would you still recommend it or any other educational driving program? So Hector, what I would suggest in terms of driver education is to do some driving on your own. Practice in low density traffic areas, in parking lots and those types of things, and have a look down in the description there for fundamentals of driving, and work with the 36-inch tall, 1 meter tall pylons in the parking lot. Get used to the primary controls, which are the steering wheel, the throttle, the accelerator, and the brake, okay, because you're probably going to be driving an automatic transmission. And if you can get comfortable with those and how the vehicle handles, how it brakes, how it steers, and those types of things, and then do some more. And then I would suggest that you do maybe 2 or 3 driving lessons with a driving examiner. If you choose not to do driving education, at least do a mock road test before you go for your road test. That way, you're going to be, the driving instructor is going to identify any weaknesses that you have that need to be sort of beefed up before you go for your road test, and that way you're going to be successful. So just know that in terms of driver education. Okay. I'm just trying to get, there we go. Okay, there's the comments back. All right. Ashimer, when merging on a highway with a short entrance lane, you don't have the room to merge, what should you do? Okay, so Ashimer, this question is frequently asked question again and again and again in terms of acceleration lanes, on-ramps and acceleration lanes and getting onto a highway. It's one of those things that you really got to get your vehicle going. You got to put your foot into it. It's one of those times you can just mash that fuel pedal down and get it up to speed, and you have to match the speed of the flow of traffic on the highway, and you have to pick a spot. And the other key to this is to signal early, because the earlier you can signal, the better chance other vehicles have of creating a gap for you and helping you by either moving over or creating a gap for you. And if they can do that, then you can get out onto the thing. But if it's a short acceleration lane, you really got to mash on it and get your vehicle going. So that's what I suggest. And please don't slow down in the acceleration lane unless it's absolutely imperative, because it's an unpredictable action and other vehicles behind you are not expecting you to do that. And you could potentially get rear-ended. So don't slow down on the acceleration lane. And I know I've had a few people say, yeah, I can do that. No, you can't do that. And I really recommend you don't. Okay, Sam, I sometimes ask my students, do you know why some of my students fail the road test? The answer is because they didn't listen to me. That is very true, Sam. That is very true, because what we do as driving instructors, we teach people how to pass road tests. We teach people how to pass a road test every day. And, you know, exactly. And, you know, it's some of the questions on the Smart Drive Test channel here, they tell me that they're having difficulty with turning, or they're having difficulty braking, or they're having difficulty with speed control. They can't manage the speed of the vehicle. And the reason that you can't do any of those things is because you didn't spend the time at the beginning of your learning how to drive, getting used to the primary controls and mastering the primary controls. And you really need to do slow speed maneuvers, and you need to go to the parking lot with those 36-inch tall, 1 meter tall pylons, and you need to work with those, and you need to work with those for several hours to get comfortable with the vehicle and get comfortable with the vehicle in space and place, and understand the blind areas around your vehicle, where your vehicle is in space and place, because there's a lot of area around your vehicle that you can't see. So you need to understand that. Lychee, thank you for that, for helping me out there. Providence, Rhode Island. Do you want to hear a funny story about Rhode Island? In the early 1990s, they switched from 48-foot trailers to 53-foot trailers for semi-trailers. And this Texan was telling this funny story in a truck stop one day. And he was in Providence, Rhode Island, and with this 53-foot trailer, just as they rolled them out, as they were new. And anyway, got pulled over by the DOT in Rhode Island, on Rhode Island. And the DOT officer says to me, he says, "You can't have that trailer in here." And the Texan says, "What do you mean it can't have that trailer in?" He says, "Well, that's too long." He says, "It's not legal in this state." And Texas looks down at the DOT, the Texas truck driver looks down at the DOT officer. He says, "Well, I'm not really in the state." He says, "The back end of the trailer is sticking out in that other state, and the front end's in the other state next to it." So he says, "I'm not completely in the state." So, there you go. There's a story about Rhode Island. Tips for changing lanes. Yes. Okay. Alici, you need 3 flashes on the signal, okay? So you need to put your mirror signal shoulder check. So check the center mirror, make sure you're not going to get rear-ended if you're slowing down. Check your wing mirror, put your signal on, and then shoulder check, okay? You get your signal on, you need to have your signal on 3 times, 3 flashes minimum before you start moving from one lane to the other, because the first signal is to get the attention of other drivers. The second signal is for them to locate you, and the third signal is for them to take some kind of action. So you need at least minimum 3 flashes before you start moving over. And then, before you actually do start moving over, shoulder check again. Okay, and by that time, the space will be there. And when you check in the mirror, you should be able to see the front of the vehicle, the whole front of the vehicle in the center mirror, and you should be able to see the vehicle behind you up in the top left corner of the wing mirror, and that way you know you have enough space to move over into the thing. Leave your signal on the entire time that you're changing lanes, and you have to accelerate slightly because you're going on a diagonal, and to make up for that increased distance that you're traveling, you have to accelerate a little bit in order to maintain your current speed. And then keep your signal on all the way and cancel your signal when you get into the other lane, okay? So those are the basic tips for changing lanes, okay? Okay, now I have to drive left hand. Can you tell me one most important thing to keep in mind always? Okay, when you say left hand, are you talking about a vehicle on the other side, that you're on the other side of the vehicle, or just right hand, left hand on top of the steering wheel? Okay? Tanya, you are most welcome. I'm really happy to hear that you passed your road test. That is awesome news. The parallel parking. Yes, the parallel parking video is quite popular, and just a month or so ago, the parallel parking video got 500,000 views. So it's 500,000 views. It's past 500,000 views now. So that was really great. So thank you, Tanya, for that. It's really awesome. I'm glad we helped you out. Okay, Corey had an unsuccessful merge and had to stop. Fortunately, there's nobody behind me. A bit unusual merge, though. It merges into the left passing fast lane. Oh, Corey, is it one of those old, exit lane and the entrance lane are one and the same thing. It's just a U. Is it one of those? One of those old ones? Yeah, because they're starting to phase those out. There's still a few of them left. There's one up in Kamloops, and actually maybe I'll do a video on one of those because those are not safe when the entrance and the exit lane are one and the same thing. Okay. Ashimer, is the left lane on the highway for people exceeding the speed limit? Well, more or less, Ashimer. In the trucking industry, we call it the big dollar lane because if you're out there in a big truck, you're going to get a ticket. But most of the people who are out in that left lane, yes, they're exceeding the speed limit quite a bit. So, yes, they're going very fast. Know that. Other side of the vehicle. Okay, Ashmer. See, now I can say because your username's Yes, I can. If you move to the other side of the vehicle and the other side of the roadway, what you need to do is be very careful when there isn't any other traffic around, because as long as there's other traffic around, you're going to be fine. If there isn't traffic, then that's when you're going to get into trouble. When I was in Australia, the 2 times I got into trouble by driving on the wrong side of the road was when there wasn't other traffic around. So just know that. Okay. Xylef, I need help making left-hand turns at lights. It's extremely hard to see. Are you saying that it's hard to see when you're looking up the road? Because what you might need to do is you might have to do a little jig jog. If you watch the left-hand turn videos here on the channel, what I do when I can't see because there's a vehicle across from me that's blocking my line of sight, is oftentimes what I do is I move to the left a little bit and then bring the steer tires back to straight. You have to bring the steer tires back to straight because if you get rear-ended, you don't want to be driven out into oncoming traffic. You want to be pushed straight forward, okay? So you just move to the left and then bring your steer tires back to straight, and that's how you can see past the other vehicles. Okay, tips on slip lanes. Yes. Mira, look far ahead, scan the slip lane, scan the crosswalk, determine whether it's a yield or whether it's a stop light. There might be a stoplight at some of these slip lanes. You're looking for pedestrians. That's going to be the hardest thing. Now, most of the time when you have a slip lane, you're going to be turning right onto a multi-lane road. So there's going to be more than one lane. So there's going to be other traffic beside you. Never pull in beside the traffic beside you, like the car in the middle lane, for example, or the other lane to the left. Always turn right behind the other vehicle. So you want to be in the spaces. And have a look at turning right at complex intersections, and that will help you and explain that a bit better about how to turn right so that you're not going to get into trouble when you're turning right at a slip lane. And as I said, the most important thing there is to scan for pedestrians and make sure that there aren't any pedestrians, because you have to give way to them in the crosswalk there, because most of these slip lanes are going to have a crosswalk. Okay, Matthew, how do you stop at stop signs in Pennsylvania? Okay, so stop signs are essentially all the same, Matthew. They all have 3 stopping positions at stop signs. Before the stop line, before the crosswalk, and if there isn't a stop line or a crosswalk, stop at the edge where the 2 roads meet, okay? And there's a video here on stop sign stopping positions, and that's the 3 stopping positions. So before the stop line, and essentially all you do is you roll up, you're slowing up, and just as you see the stop line go under the front of the car from where you're sitting in the passenger seat, bring the vehicle to a stop, and you'll be a couple of feet back behind the stop line. If there isn't a stop line, then stop before the crosswalk. If there isn't a crosswalk and there's a sidewalk, stop before the sidewalk. Just imagine it extending out into the roadway. And if there isn't a stop line or a sidewalk, then stop where the 2 roads meet. So those are the 3 stopping positions at any stop signed intersections. They're all the same. And then the last point about stop signed intersections, if you can't see once you stop at the correct position, creep forward until you can see. So after you stop completely, treat it as a yield. Just move forward until you can see. Okay? Okay. Yeah, you'll have to send me that, Corey. You'll have to send me the address and I'll have a look at it. Okay. Hi, my front bumper always scratches the ground when I try to enter places like fast food restaurants. The incline and the entrance is too much for my car, and sometimes I can't get a good angle. One of the things you can try, Pape, is to try and come up on an angle. Instead of going straight in, come up on a bit of an angle, and that way what happens is the one wheel will go up and it'll lift the front of your car up so that you're not bottoming out when you're coming in, because some of those are pretty steep, right? I've got an alleyway here that it's pretty steep if I go straight up, but if I kind of go in on a bit of an angle, it gets the one wheel up, and then I come around and it'll bring the front end up more and let you do that so that you're not bottoming out. So that's one way that you can do that. Okay, Ashimer, who has the right of way at an intersection if two cars are making a right or a left? If the two vehicle, okay, so what I think is what you're talking about is the two vehicles are across from each other and they're both making right-hand turns or they're both making left-hand turns. Well, both vehicles can go at the same time if they're both making the same turn and they're across from each other. I don't know whether that answered your question or not. Angelica, do I have to stop right before I start turning when backing around a corner, or do I have to stay a certain distance from the curb? Generally, Angelica, what they want you to do is they want you to stay sort of 8 to 12 inches away from the curb. So when you're backing around is what they want you to try and maintain. Mazin, there are 3 videos, and have a look at all of those videos on how to parallel park. And I made a couple of supplementary videos on parallel parking that will give you different reference points and key pieces that you need to be looking for when you're parallel parking that will allow you to parallel park into tight spaces. Now, if you're parallel parking into tight spaces, the other 2 things that you can do is, instead of making a 45-degree angle, you can make it a sharper angle, and then you can back straight in and then bring it around. But it's going to take a bit more practice in order packing in. But do have a look at all of those videos. I think there's 3 of them, and they will give you different reference points on how to park between 2 vehicles and some of the other things that you should be looking for in terms of parallel parking, okay? So that'll help you with that. Karthik, I passed my G2 in Toronto with practice and with confidence from watching your videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment, and I'm really glad that the information helped you out and helped you to be successful with your G2. Yeah, that is awesome. So now you have do you have a full G license now, or was it just the G2 license, your first license there in Ontario? Okay, Corey, I got confused with that lane he shouldn't be in. Somehow I anticipated it happening, and he ended up in the middle of the lane going 50. Yeah, you anticipated it. That's really great that you can do that. Okay, Karthik, getting a vehicle. So, you want to buy something that's secondhand, something that is relatively sound. As I've said before, I'm biased in terms of Toyotas and Hondas. Okay, those are my preferences in buying vehicles. Now, you want something that's sound, and what I would suggest to you is, if there isn't already a mechanical inspection that have been done on the vehicle, ask the person you're buying the vehicle from or the dealership that you can take it to an independent mechanic and get that mechanic to do a pre-trip inspection. It'll cost you about $100, and it's probably the best $100 that you'll ever spend. So, because we kind of get emotionally attached to vehicles when we see them and we like them. So, yes, take it to a mechanic, spend $100, get them to do an inspection on it for you, and then purchase the vehicle. The other thing, you want to just look in the motor compartment. Are there any odd smells, any burning smells, those types of things? Check the color of the oil. Is it kind of clear? Does it have good tires on it? Those types of things. Is the upholstery ripped? Does it have really high mileage? Is it kind of dirty and yucky? If it's any of those things, you really don't want to have a used vehicle. And now that you mentioned that, I'm going to get a video done for you here on how to buy a secondhand vehicle and some of the things that you should be looking at, because I really need to help you out with that. Okay. Yes. Ashimer, can you hug the curb parallel parking on a road test? Yeah, you can be close to the curb, Ashimer, just as long as you don't hit the curb. Okay, don't hit the curb and don't push one of the tires up over the curb. Okay, yeah, no, Corey, I'd be interested to have a look at that. All right, so we're almost done with questions here, and we're rolling into 50 minutes. And yes, the kids are here tonight, and they've been really good because we had a discussion about this, and I think there was some talk about them getting a movie, so they've been really good. So we're going to wrap this up pretty quick here if anybody doesn't have any more questions. If you do have questions, I'll be around for a few minutes afterwards, and I'll answer those just by typing you a comment. As well, if you're going for road test or you want some more driver education, as I've said before, over at the Smart Drive Test website. I've got and Corey's helping me with this, and I really appreciate that. Bricks for Wheels is his username. His name's Corey. He's helping me with my course. Pass your road test first time guaranteed. Okay, if you don't pass your road test first time within 60 days, I'll give you your money back. Okay, and as well, there's a coupon, YouTube Live, and you'll get 30% off the course. It runs for $38.95. So if you get 30% off, you'll get it for about 20 bucks. And you can sign up for that course. And as I said, pass your road test first time guaranteed. It has a schedule of 6 weeks. You start with the fundamentals of driving in the parking lot. You go out, you do left turns, right turns, how to control the vehicle, and those types of things. It'll help you with all of that. So that's available over at the website. And as I said, YouTube Live is the coupon. You put the coupon in, save that, and that you'll get it for about 20 bucks. Okay, Ashimer, how many miles would you recommend on a used vehicle? Okay, when I bought my Honda, my current Honda CR-V that I have, it's a 1998, so it's almost 20 years old now. It had 250,000 kilometers on it, which is about 150,000 miles on it. So if you're buying one of those vehicles, kids in the background there playing with the clothes bags, making noise. If you're buying one of those vehicles, you can get higher mileage vehicle. If you're buying a domestic vehicle, I would be kind of careful once they start running up around the 120,000 miles, 200,000 kilometers, because they can start getting into problems and those types of things. The other thing you can do is look for the reviews on the internet there. That will also give you information about used vehicles. Okay? Faith, you are most welcome. Francois. Okay, Francois, what I suggest is look at that video on fundamentals of driving and work with the 36-inch tall pylons, the 1 meter tall pylons, and that will help you with your parking, because for the purposes of road test, you're going to have to park. You're going to have to reverse stall park, you're going to have to parallel park, and you're going to have to do 3-point turns. All of that is going to be required for the purposes of the road test. All right, so we're going to wrap it up there. Again, Pass Your Road Test First Time is available on the Smart Drive Test website. It's a 6-week course. It's self-paced. The online stuff is all self-paced, and it will tell you what you need to do in the vehicle to be successful on your road test first time. So have a look at that. Okay? Do manuals really have better longevity? Corey, you'll have to ask me that question in a different manner because I'm not following you. Okay, you are most welcome. Anna, you are most welcome. Yeah, that is unfortunate, Anna. Okay? So if you got a road test coming up this week, good luck in your road test. If you have any questions at all, leave me a comment, okay? No disrespect, but I just failed my road test by 11 points, and I just paid him $100, and he said yes and passed me. And where was that, BB, that you were able to do that? I'm curious now that you've got me. Karthik, is a Volkswagen VR6 2,100 miles auto transmission a good? Again, I would, Karthik, I would go take that to a mechanic. I would spend $100 if you're sort of set on it. Spend the $100 and get an inspection done on it, okay? That would be my suggestion, okay? Corey, you are most welcome. 200,000 miles. Okay, well, 200,000 miles is a lot of miles, okay? Yeah, that's a lot of miles. Yeah, I would definitely get an inspection done on that if you were thinking about it, okay? So, you have a road test upcoming this week. Good luck in your road test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.